Hello, company, and welcome to Show People, the podcast that shines a spotlight on the UK performing arts industry and those dedicated to their craft, covering the latest news and issues, what to see and do, showcasing theatrical talent, and of course, always trying to inform, educate, and entertain. My name is Andrew Keates. I'm a director and your host. Now, today's guest has had an international career, appearing in UK productions such as Sweet Bird of Youth, Miss Saigon, The Lion King, and Australian productions such as Showboat, Naked Boy Singing, and Evita, of which he was nominated for Best Actor in a Musical for playing the role of Che. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the one, the only, Mr. Kurt Kansley.
Hello.
Hello, mate.
How are you, my wonderful friend?
I'm still alive, still breathing. Coming up on today's show, I'll be covering the latest dramatic news. On the platform, we have a new song from a new musical by Kurt and his writing partner, Oliver Lidert. And I'll be interviewing Kurt all about his life, career, and setting him some infamous Show People podcast challenges too. You are listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates and Kurt Kansley.
Hi.
Hello, now you're back.
I'm back. I'm here.
How on earth are you? You've been a busy boy.
Oh, I'm fantastic. I've been back in the UK now for a couple of weeks now. Oh, 3 weeks.
I've
3
noticed
weeks.
there is a slight extra twinge now to the Australian accent. Do you
It's
find
come
that
back a little bit.
You're flaming galah. Do you find that the accent sort of like intensifies and detensifies? Do you get lost in between being British and Australian?
I'm one of
and
those
South
people
African?
that I'm a bit osmosisy. Yeah, sometimes if I'm around my parents, then I start to speak a little bit like a South African. You know, I'm one of those people that mimics people's laughs as well. You know, I think it's an actor thing, isn't it?
So what have you been doing in Australia?
Well, I just appeared in the Australian premiere of Ragtime.
I've heard of it.
Which is a wonderful musical that I did for the first time in 2011 with your lovely self.
You did do it well. Well, we cast and we could not find a Coal House, could not find anyone who could do it. And then, thanks to former Show People podcast guest Ros James, went,
yes.
Do you know what? I think I know somebody. And I think the moment we heard you sing, we were just like, yeah, fine, absolutely fine.
Yeah, him.
We'll have him. So what was it like to go from such a small, intimate, wonderful production of Ragtime to what I believe was quite an epic scale show?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, this is the third time I've done it now. I did after our version at the Landor, I did the Regent's Park version.
How was that? I've always wanted to ask, because that was the decision to do it colour blind.
Yeah, and it was also very daringly directed by Tim Sheeder.
Yeah.
And he kind of wanted to set it, like the whole set was like post-apocalyptic sort of rubble everywhere. And we were all modern day American tropes. You know, I was a military character. There was a cheerleader, a plumber, and we were. It was very Brechtian. We were all telling the story of Ragtime, and then slowly we all kind of got into period costume and. You know, we had like our Booker T. Washington was a woman. Grandfather was played by a black man.
The grandfather being the most racist character.
Yeah, it kind of. I mean, it dipped its toe in it a little bit. You know, I think he could have gone either all the way or not at all. But my feeling on a period piece is, don't mess with it.
No.
If it's a piece set in, it's like when people try to mess with Rent, or if you mess with Hair.
Yeah,
it's a period piece that, you know, that's how I feel anyway. I was so grateful to do the Landor version of Ragtime. Really, I mean, I was thinking about it even in the rehearsal period for this Australian version.
Yeah,
it just opened up so many opportunities for me. Because I got to learn the part and got to know the role. I feel like I've grown up enough to really kind of sink my teeth into it this time around. I mean, the wonderful thing about doing the Regent's Park version was we were in rep.
Yeah.
So I got to do A Midsummer Night's Dream. 2012, the year of the Olympics in London. So it was the 1 year at Regent's Park where for 6 months we were in rep. So it was the majority of the cast did both shows. So we did 1 week of Ragtime, 1 week of Dream. 1 week of Ragtime, 1 week of Dream.
That must have been exhausting.
Oh, I loved it.
Did you?
I loved it. It was so good, particularly doing Midsummer Night's Dream. Midsummer Night, and I trained first as an actor anyway, and I kind of fell into musical theatre, and you know what it's like as a performer, and even as a director or any creative. We tend to get pigeonholed.
I've always said this, and you will have heard me say this on previous episodes. In my humble opinion, for whatever it's worth, the best kind of actor to do Shakespeare, in my opinion, is always somebody with a background or an experience in music. Yeah. Because a natural understanding of rhythm, a natural understanding of soliloquy, a natural understanding of all that stuff. Musicians are the best at doing that.
Yeah.
You know, you have just a natural understanding of rhythm that isn't academic and isn't contrived and isn't put upon. Yeah. No, I'm not saying that people like Andrew Scott and other extraordinary actors out there are worthless. I'm not saying that. But in regards to naturally taking to Shakespeare verse, I've always found musicians are the best.
Well, what was really wonderful about it was we had Matthew Dunster direct Midsummer Night's Dream, and he had never worked with musical theatre performers before. He had never directed them in any plays, and I think he was a bit scared.
Sure.
And he didn't know what he was going to get, if he was going to get big hammy actors. And he said to us that his opinion in that completely changed.
Good.
After that experience. And so it should. You know, we shouldn't be put into boxes. We have the ability to do many things.
Yeah. And also, and funny enough, I've mentioned this, there are endless people we can mention. You know, Imelda Staunton, fundamentally started as an understudy in Guys and Dolls.
Yes.
You know, let's widen our appreciation of performers. You know, Ian McKellen is in the new production of Cats. I've got a feeling he'll be fine. What the rest of the movie is like, I'm not going to guess. Yeah. But, you know, like ultimately an artist is an artist, and there are strengths and there are weaknesses, and hopefully. And do you know what I think it might come down to? If you have got an actor that is struggling, well, then that is why you have a director to help with that, or a musical director to help with that, or choreographer. I think it's just lots of creatives being too scared that they might have to do some fucking work. Do you know what I mean?
Hello, this is Fra Fee, and you can listen to me talk some nonsense about eating guinea pigs on the Show People podcast with the lovely Andrew Keates.
So, something I didn't realise, because I knew you had Australian connections, but I didn't realise until I started doing my research that you were born in South Africa.
I was born in Cape Town, South Africa.
Right. Are you really from Cape Town, or is that just the place you say because it's the one that everybody knows? Really?
That's where I was born. It's the most beautiful city in the world. I've still got a lot of family that live there.
Yeah.
I've only been back twice in my life.
Yeah.
You know, I keep in touch with all my aunts and uncles and cousins over there. And some of them have come to London. I've seen them in London, and some have visited Australia, but I've only been twice. Yeah. I'm due for another trip.
Can you just paint a picture of what it was like for a boy growing up during those impossible times?
I was only there up until the age of 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And I remember things. I remember that there were double-decker buses, and we had to sit on the top, because that's where the black and the coloured people. That's what I'm called, by the way. It was my race, and I've got my birth certificate. My birth certificate says class and then it says in Afrikaans class, and then class in English, and it says I'm Cape coloured.
Cape coloured.
So that's what. And I've never found that word offensive. It's weird. I think people's experience of racism is relative. But I've never found that word weird. I remember when I first moved here, and someone said to me, I was in the dressing room of Lion King, and the boy sitting next to me said, "So what are you?" And I was like, "Well, I'm Cape coloured." He was like, "Oh, you can't use that word here." So yeah, that's. But yeah, I mean, going back to what you were saying, or what you asked me, I don't. It was never all of the things that I remember, like even going into a different entrance with a post office and I remember there was a park. We lived on the we lived in a coloured area, and there was a park just across the street, across the main street, in a white area with a choo-choo train, and I couldn't play there. And I remember asking my mum that one day, how can I play? And she said, "Oh no, that's for the white kids." But it was never an issue. I didn't think of it as an issue. I didn't feel any injustice as a 6-year-old. But but it was only later when we moved to Australia. Then I was at school with multicultural people, and there were white, black, Italian, Chinese, all sorts at my school that I realised that
Tell me about that transition from South Africa to Australia. I understand your father was given some quite good advice about how he could make that happen.
Well, it was around in the 1970s, Australia, which has got its own issues, they stopped the white-only policy for immigration.
Right.
And when that was lifted, there were a lot of coloured South Africans that were moving to Australia, and the majority of them were moving because they wanted to get better opportunities for their families, live a better lifestyle. But my dad did a lot of research, and he found out that if you mentioned apartheid in your interview with the Australian consulate, then they wouldn't take you in.
Why was that? Why was that? Was that almost like a checkbox thing? Was that still because you didn't know if you were going to be greeted by an Australian official?
I don't know. I think I assume that it's probably because Australia didn't want to meddle in the affairs of what were happening in South Africa at the time.
Right.
God, it was quite a. I mean, you look back to what Maggie Thatcher's attitude towards apartheid. She was all for it, and it wasn't until, like you mentioned earlier, there were a number of South African artists and celebrities who moved. Like there's a famous one called Miriam Makeba, who ended up being exiled. She couldn't return to South Africa. She was touring America and she was touring Europe, and she was outspoken about what was going on in South Africa, and made the world aware of what was happening there. And then she was exiled. Well, a lot of art and sportsmen, they were censored onto what they could say. I was telling you earlier before, Andrew, that growing up, I was such a musical theatre geek. One of my first records was a South African musical called District 6.
Yeah.
And I used to listen to it over and over again. I can still remember some of it. And it was about this area in Cape Town called District 6, which is still there, but there's nothing there anymore. It was all bulldozed, but it's but it was an area where all the races, all the religious groups, all lived in harmony together. It was like the area. It was beautiful.
Yeah,
this beautiful area where people were exchanging and sharing, and it was right on the edge of the mountain, looking over the sea. And it was in the 50s and 60s when they bulldozed it and they relocated all the Africans and all of the coloureds to the other side of the mountain, to the Cape Flats.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but this musical is beautiful. It's about this story of this colourful group of people all living in harmony, and then they found out that their home is going to be taken from them.
When did you first discover theatre and the performing arts? Was it that LP of that musical?
I just think I was. That's another memory of mine in growing up in South Africa. I would like boss all my cousins around. I'd get them put on performances, put on shows, and my parents they saw that I had an interest in it. When we moved to Australia, they wanted to provide so much opportunity. And I said to you before that if I'd grown up in South Africa, I very much doubt I would be here right now, sitting opposite you having a conversation. I don't think I would have had all the amazing experiences I've had working, traveling. So my parents, they saw this. They saw that I had a love for it. I had a Commodore 60. We had a Commodore 64
I know,
computer.
Commodore 64, yeah.
And there was a panel that you would put over the keyboard with a piano keys, and I had that. I was obsessed with it.
Amazing.
So then my parents, they didn't have much money, and they decided to send me to keyboard lessons, but it was an organ. It was like one of those, those church organs with the pedals.
Yeah.
So I was doing that all the time, and drama classes. Yeah, and I wanted to go to ballet.
Yeah.
But that was too much gay for my dad.
Yeah.
So I had to do Boy Scouts.
Let's ask about that. I mean, you are very open about being a gay man.
Yeah.
Was it a big deal for your father and your family?
It wasn't. Well, it was in Australia.
Really?
More so than like because I have a gay. Oh well, he passed away earlier this year. I had a gay. My mother's brother's gay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was more. It was a bigger issue in Australia. Australia in the 80s, in 70s and 80s, is quite, and still a little bit now, is this emasculated, toxic, masculine kind of butch, ugliness, which we see a little bit over here.
Where was it that you were growing up in Australia?
I grew up in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne.
So it was Melbourne.
Yeah, in Melbourne. And, we grew up, I mean, my parents aren't strictly religious, but I grew up Catholic and went to a Catholic boys' school and
no wonder you were gay.
No, I loved it. I was the first thing I did at high school was that's where I discovered theatre properly. I remember my first production was You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown.
Lovely. Very sweet.
And I played Linus. And I think I was in year 9. And I remember when it finished, I was bawling my eyes out. I was crying. I was like, why am I so upset? And it was because I loved it. I loved every second of it. And I think that was when I first understood what theatre was. Yeah. But I always had this passion for telling stories.
And tell me, so obviously to go from high school, did you have any sort of vocational training at that time? Because obviously Australia was not perhaps as far ahead, say, as old stalwart institutions like Britain has, like RADA and all these places. What was available for you to train during that time?
There was the two famous schools at that time for musical theatre were WAPA in Perth,
which is still going,
and NIDA. I desperately wanted to go, and I didn't get in.
Yeah,
and then I tried again the next year, and I didn't get in. But I ended up going to drama school in Melbourne. I went to Monash University, which was it was a pretty good course actually, but it was a new course.
Yeah.
And I did 1 year there, and then I got into my first show. I got a professional show, which was Showboat, the Hal Prince version of Showboat. Big show, and I feel like I learned most of my craft on the job.
Yeah.
When Showboat finished, I got a scholarship to Melbourne Uni. Did classical music because I'm a pianist as well. Yeah. And I did opera and piano, and I was there for about a year and a half, 2 years, and then I got into a very different musical from Showboat called Rent.
Well, as long as you know your chords, you're fine.
Yeah.
What was a young Kurt Kansley like? What would you want to sort of grab him by the shoulders and say to him that perhaps you know now that perhaps he didn't then?
Oh, I'd probably tell him just to calm down a little bit. I think I just wanted it so badly. It wasn't about the fame. It was about the work. Yeah. I just knew I was such a geek. Yeah. I knew all the composers. I knew who won the Tony Awards and what years. I just, I teach now. I find a lot of kids don't really, they're not that many of them are that clued up on all of that. I would have, I remember getting this subscription to this magazine. Every week I'd get a different one, and it had a CD attached to it.
The Musicals Collection.
Yes!
I have.
And I just couldn't wait for the next one. I remember, and I discovered so many amazing musicals from that, like Kiss of the Spider Woman and The Rink and
Pal Joey and things like that. Yeah,
all of them. I was obsessed. I've still got them at mum and dad's house.
Yeah. They're a great reference. Like the amount of times that I've needed to get hold of a cast recording of something that's been long deleted, but lo and behold, you go back and you go, shit, I've got that recording. It's because it's from, Yep. So I think that series, I'm surprised they haven't done it when our CDs aren't a thing anymore, so they probably won't do anything like that again. How sad.
Hello, this is Francis Raphael. When I'm on my own, pretending he's beside me, I listen to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates.
What would I tell myself? I'd just say, just enjoy it. Enjoy enjoy the process. Yeah. And don't be so and don't want everything so badly. I did. And I feel like that's earlier on in my career. And I think it's given me a tough skin. But earlier on in my career, I had some tough times, as many people do in this business. It's a really tough business. But I think it's because I was so desperate that a lot of the time in my auditions, I wouldn't perform truthfully. I wouldn't be relaxed.
From all of the performers in my life, there tends to be, and I certainly relate to it, there tends to be something, either a person or a moment or something where we have felt like we've not been listened to. And then lo and behold, because it is an unusual thing to say, what do you do when I stand in front of however many thousand people every night and ask them to applaud me at the end, and that's a strange thing. And I think there has to come, there's often a moment or a person or something that's happened to us that enables us to go, I require that attention because I'm a storyteller. I have something to say and you should listen to it, which we have.
Yep.
Is there something in your life where you think that might ring true for you?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that I've tried to hold on to, because we can get so swept away in this business, and I've seen people completely change who weren't recognized, and then all of a sudden they're big and famous and they become a totally different person. And I think one of the things that I've always tried to hold on to, because recently in the last 2 years certainly, in the last 2 years I have I've been starting to get a bit more recognition and starting to get roles, and I think part of that is what I'm really adamant about is keeping my feet firmly planted on the ground. Yeah. And I think what I try and do is, there's a few things I try and do. I'll be great. I write a diary every day, so I'll write things that I'm grateful for. Yeah. I keep in regular contact with my mentors. Yeah. I've got 2 mentors, both gay men. Yeah. One who was my singing teacher, and his partner, who is a producer in Australia, who gave me my first job. Oh. And he's now 80. And whenever I'm in Australia, his name is Walter van Nieuwkerk. He's Dutch, but he's an Australian stalwart producer, phenomenal man. And I make sure every time I'm home, I have dinners with them, and I invite them to press nights and all of that. I think that's what I'd do.
Do you know, it's nice you say that, because, in fact, there's a wonderful book, which I always recommend anybody that works in the creative industry to read. It's called The Artist's Way.
Oh, I've done it. It's amazing, isn't it?
I knew that's where it came from.
Yeah.
So the whole thing of keeping a diary is exactly why I thought of that. It's just, for anybody that... that maybe is dealing with anxiety or stress or anything like that. This phenomenal book, which was given to me by the late, great Sheila Allen, who was one of my mentors, and sadly she's no longer with us, who again was a much, much older woman. I'd lost my nan, and she said, "You must read The Artist's Way. You must read it."
It's amazing, isn't it?
And it changed my life. What I'll do is I'll put a link to Amazon, and you can either buy it there or you can visit your local bookshop, which I highly recommend, and spend double the amount of money, but hopefully keep a shop open. What would you say were the really formative jobs? You mentioned the first job that you were given by one of your mentors, which was Showboat. Was that with Hal Prince himself?
It was Hal Prince's version. Yeah. Hal Prince did come over for like the press night, and he was more there. He was more there just to kind of do a bit of publicity things. His associate looked after the show. Wow. And came and taught the show. But still, to do that was my first ever job. It was mammoth. It was huge. It was like and because Australia doesn't have many BAME performers at that time. Now it's very different, actually, which is very exciting. But back then, there weren't many. There was a handful of us, but the majority of the cast were brought from Broadway. Oh. So I was a sponge. I was like, I learned so much from them. I was 20. Yeah. Was my first job, and there were these, and they're still very, very good friends of mine. They still, some of them are like on Broadway recordings. I remember afterwards finding recordings of How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, and finding Aubrey Jones on there who was in the cast, and I was so excited. So there were these people who would just had lived my dream. You know, so I was and I would watch the way that they would conduct themselves, how they behaved, their etiquette, everything. I learned so much from them.
So Showboat to Rent, was Rent a show that meant a lot to you? Or?
Rent. I mean, like Rent at the time was the original version, and it was.
Who did you play?
I was a swing, and so I was swinging. I covered Benny, and I covered. I mostly went on for the Seasons of Love soloist.
Yeah,
it was the new best thing that came out at that time.
So you would have been doing, and again, it's. I have to remember this contextually. As you say, Rent was the MTV generation. Like, this is a new sound for musical theatre. In many ways, I know a show you've also done. In many ways, the sort of 90s equivalent of Hair. Do you know what I mean? It's the MTV generation. We're a whole load of kids. This is our culture, rather than let's listen to Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Yep.
So I totally get how exciting. And that was the Australian premiere?
It was the Australian premiere. It was the first production. And I think one of the things that really... one of the things that I loved about it was that, you know, it was the show about artists and the show about this rainbow of people. But also at the time I had a friend who was HIV positive, and he's passed away now. And I was, for me, it was really, it was wonderful that his story was being told.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a story about shame or about any of the kind of negative implications of it. It was just a story about a human's experience.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the most wonderful thing. It was there are a few shows that I've done that are heart punches. I call them heart punches. Rent is up there.
Yeah.
Hair and Ragtime.
Yeah.
Ones that frame the human condition. You know, there's so much hope and so much love. I mean, that one of the most powerful moments in the show is the entire cast just standing in a line
and the
front of the stage, parking and barking.
Yeah.
You know, just singing there's something so moving about that.
Yeah.
You know, I think Ragtime does a similar thing. The opening number, just standing there singing. The end of Act 1, which is sung by Sarah's friend, Till We Reach That Day.
Yeah.
You know, just an ensemble of people. There's something to be said about that. An ensemble of people singing at you from their solar plexuses, you know.
Now let's get on to Hair, because that's something you've done at different points of your life. I think, Kurt, you're only ever happy if you're singing a wonderful score or if you're naked. That's my suspicion.
Yeah.
Tell me about, because you did Gary Lloyd's production of Hair, didn't you?
Yep.
Which was with Rosalind James.
With Ros James.
I'm name-checking Ros because, of course, she name-checked you, bless her, in her last one. What is it about Hair? Another game-changing musical in our history. What is it about Hair that you think is so powerful?
It's the music and it's the heart, it's the story. I mean, we all know that the book has got so many issues. It's the design of the show is, you know, a chunk of vignettes, really. I mean, Act 2 goes into this weird random thing, but it's the music.
Yeah.
It's the humanity. It's the celebration of humanity. It's love, it's celebration, it's joy, it's acceptance. You know, and it when it was written and when it came out, there was some crazy stuff happening.
Yeah.
You know, this crazy. I am excited to see what theatre we're gonna be is gonna be created from the times we're in right now.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I think I believe, and I know like that the best shows happen when there's something important for people to say.
Adversity, yeah. And that's interesting. I'm really recognizing in the work that, you know, because of course we all do jobs, stuff that we love, and then there's stuff that we pay the bills and things. But it's interesting, the thing that is ringing true with you, Kurt, is it's either a story about adversity or it's a story about integration or a tribe. That seems to be the stuff that you really relate to, which is no great shock. You play Burger, I guess?
The last production I played Burger.
Yeah.
And it was, we did a tour around Germany and Holland. It was random. We did it at,
how does hair go down with German audiences? Because
love it. They love it there. It's so popular in Germany and Holland. Our production was really random. We performed at the Ahoy Centre, which is an arena. We did hair in an arena, 12,000 people.
Is this where Roz mentioned that then there was also loads of cameras as well?
Yeah. So everyone was a little bit, conscious of the nudity.
Yeah.
I had no issue. I love getting naked.
That is actor speak for I've got nothing to worry about. That's why Kurt's been in a long-term relationship for 2 years, everybody. I'm not just winding Kurt up about being naked, because he also did the Australian production of Naked Boy Singing.
Oh, I love that.
So it's a great... Who did you play?
There's no named roles in that.
Which song did you have?
I sang Window to Window. I did the tender ballad about the voyeuristic boys.
There's the...
there's Bliss of a Briss. There's Perky Little Porn Star.
Yes.
It's
a great little show.
It's really good fun. I mean, I love doing... I'm doing something really cheeky and fun at the moment. I'm doing my first role in drag or pantodame right now.
No.
I'm in rehearsals right now. So I love doing some things that are a bit silly as well, just to kind of... entertain some kids, or be a bit, or do a bit of satire, do a bit of weirdness. I'm open to all of that.
Let's take a short break, and we will ask Kurt exactly what Ayanama Negwanema really means.
This is Bill Deemer, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates.
It's time for dramatic news! Today's top stories. BBC Studios and Immersive Everywhere have announced a new Doctor Who immersive adventure, which challenges audience members to save the planet with the universe's favourite Time Lord, the Doctor. Doctor Who Time Fracture will open in London in February 2020, with a location yet to be announced. Pitlochry Festival Theatre have announced their 2020 season, including the world premiere of a play by David Grieg, a production of the musical Gypsy, Private Lives by Noel Coward, and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof by Tennessee Williams. Christine Payne, General Secretary of Equity, will retire next year, with a new leader taking over her post in October 2020. Writing in Equity's most recent members magazine, Payne said, "I will be retiring in October next year, and you may have noticed an advertisement for the post of General Secretary. I will remain fully in charge until that time, alongside the union's dedicated officers, council and staff. I have worked at Equity for more than 40 years, holding posts such as Commercials Organiser, Assistant General Secretary to the Recorded Media and the Live Performance Departments, and Secretary to several committees. I'm very proud of the strong, independent trade union that we are today, but now is not the time to reflect on my time at Equity. There is still plenty to do." And finally, the Conservative Party have won the UK general election, securing a majority government. So in short, we're all fucked. Have you got a new story you'd like me to know about? Just email info@arian-productions.com.
Hello, this is Simon Lipkin, and you are listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates. Or you're not listening to it. And these are just the voices in your head. Oh, shit.
I saw The Lion King when I was a young lad. I'm saying young lad, teenager. It's a magical show.
Oh, it's amazing.
And it's a fucking extraordinary design production. The idea of the circle and this never-ending sort of lion and the cheetah. I just find that so... I adore it. And the collaboration that creates that polyphonic score is amazing. What was it like to be in? Hard work, I imagine.
It was hard work, but I am so eternally grateful to Disney, because they've given me the opportunity to move here. Now
Yeah.
I'm a British citizen. I'm proud British citizen, and I even voted today.
Very good.
It was also a really amazing opportunity for me to get in touch with my roots as
Yeah.
a South African. They have a contingency of South Africans in the cast, so they bring over Zulus and people from Zulu backgrounds or Xhosa backgrounds, or from Tswana, because we sing in all of those languages. So to meet all of these amazing people from the country of my birth,
Yeah.
and to sing music from the country of my birth was so. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember first seeing a CD of The Lion King. I was like, "What the hell is this? I need to be in it." And then I remember looking through the pictures of the CD, and I saw a picture of Simba, and I was like, "Oh, I look like him. I
Yeah.
can be him."
Yeah.
And I was obsessed.
What you
Yeah.
just said is the point that I've made for years. Just for kids or young people to see themselves on our stage is it's just the most important thing at the moment.
So important. I mean, that was probably one of the first times that I saw myself truly represented on the stage or in a production that I could be in, and I ended up doing the show for a long time.
But I noticed this on this. I'm like, how on earth? So I've got here 2005 to 2009. That's over 4 years. Kurt. How do you keep yourself sane?
I became a swing.
So new tracks, right?
I became a swing. I understudied 2 principal roles. And what I did as well is because I'm a busy bee, I played the piano. When I was in the car, I think I joined the 2005 cast in London, and Rachel John also joined that cast, and Rachel John and I became really good buddies.
Yeah.
She's one of my closest friends, and I decided to. And Rachel didn't really know much other music at that time. And because we were off stage, I used to get the rehearsal piano into the green room, and I started teaching her jazz standards.
Oh my God.
And then we started
Lucky Rachel.
We started this night in Soho at there's a bar called the Green Carnation. Every Wednesday we had a night called West End Wednesdays, and I made little posters, and I went to all the theatres, and we used to get like the casts of Chicago and the casts of other shows would come in, and what we did is I made it like an open mic night.
Lovely.
So like people would get up and have a sing, try and accompany them, but it was good, and that's how that's kind of what kept me sane as well for those 5. My total time at Lion King was 6 years.
6 in
Because
total.
I did a year and a half, I think it was about a year and a half in Australia. I did the original cast in Australia, in Sydney, and then the show moved to Melbourne, and the Simba left, and I was like, right, this is my turn.
Yeah, come on, I've done my time.
I'm going to get it, and I didn't.
Oh.
And then I was like, right, I'm leaving. And as soon as I left, as soon as I said I was leaving, I got a phone call. Oh, can you move? Would you like to go to London and understudy Simba in London?
Yeah.
Yes. Like
Such a beautiful irony behind that, though. The idea of your own culture that you were moved from is the thing that then brought you here. That's
I've
so
never
poetical.
thought of it like
so
that.
poetic.
That's really interesting. I've never thought of it like that. Well, of course, they've just celebrated their 20-year anniversary, which I wasn't here for, unfortunately. I was in Australia, and they had a big party, apparently, and it was amazing. And everyone had their names written in the Disney font on like a wallpaper thing. Yeah, so good.
And tell me as well. So, because you started as Banzai as well.
I understudied Banzai.
Oh, you understudied Banzai.
I understudied Banzai.
So the reason I mention that is obviously, of all the costumes, perhaps with the exception of the giraffes, the one fucking character I really wouldn't want to play as one of the hyenas, because that looks like a torture device.
You're wearing a sofa.
Yeah.
It's really hot, and you're constantly crouching down, and your back, I remember, and you've got this weird thing on, and but I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved playing him more than Simba, because he was the villain. Everyone wants to play the villain,
but he's also really bloody funny as well.
Yeah,
He's got
you get a bit of
I mean, all of those hyenas.
Yeah, I loved it.
You've just reminded me. I remember, who is it that said to me? I remember when I was at drama school, and what was it I was told? Andrew, there are only two parts for you in the West End: Mr. Tumnus in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and Zazu in The Lion King. But yeah, I love that show. I absolutely love it.
My last year in Lion King, when I wanted to kill myself and I couldn't sing another Ingunyama Ningwena Mabala ever again.
Which is The Lion and the Cheetah, isn't it?
It's the lion and the leopard with the spots.
Lion and the leopard with the spots.
The lion and the leopard with the spots.
Because my mate Stevie Webb, who, if he's listening to this, has... Stevie discovered this. And he said, well, when I think about it, it's actually... for anybody that does speak Afrikaans, it's a really fucking boring show, because all you're being told is the lion and the leopard with the... Well, he thought it was the lion and the cheetah, which is why I thought it was that. But it's like, all you're hearing is the lion and the cheetah. Yeah. The lion and the... If you speak Afrikaans, you're just going to be like, yeah, we get it!
That bit's Zulu.
Oh.
The lion and the leopard with the spots. There's no Afrikaans in it. There's...
In all fairness, Stevie Webb does not speak Afrikaans. It will not shock you. But I just love the idea that if you speak that particular language, just hearing that going over and over again, you'd be like, yeah, so you invest all the time in the English lyrics, but when it comes to something that's authentic...
Yeah.
But go on, tell me a bit more about the language.
So about the languages, well, the languages are...
Because Lebo M, was that the Lebo M stuff?
Yeah, Lebo M, he did he did all of the almost the choral stuff.
Yeah.
So there's obviously the languages included a little bit of Swahili. Right. Swahili is Hakuna Matata, actually.
It means no worries, just in case anyone's wondering.
Yeah, for the rest of your days. There's Zulu, there's Tswana, there's Xhosa, there's Sotho. I think the beginning of Shadowland, which is Fatsilesu.
Yeah.
I think that one is Tswana. I might be wrong, but yeah. But one of the most amazing things that happened to me in my last year at Lion King was I met Oliver Lidert, who is my writing partner. Oliver came in. He joined the cast in my final year, and the two of us just became kindred spirits.
And what year is this?
This is 2009. And the Lion King doesn't really get in its cast. There's not really that many people that have are musical theatre geeks like myself. Mm-hmm. And when Oliver joined, I finally met somebody who knew who Sondheim was. I met somebody who I could converse with all things Rodgers and Hammerstein, and yeah.
And this is actually leading on rather nicely, because we're going to go to the platform, which ordinarily I'll have people who've submitted their new and original works, but you and Oliver have become a really fierce writing duo, and you are working on 3 shows. Tell us about some of the work that you're writing to begin with, and then we'll play a little song that you want to share with our listeners as well.
Well, we started writing about we started writing actually then in 2009. We were like, we need to write musicals. And actually the first piece that we devised together was a cabaret, right? A one-woman show for Rachel John, which we put on we put on 3 performances of it at the St. James Theatre in the studio space. And we called it The Songs I'll Never Sing. And the majority of the show had original music from the musical theatre canon and a few other songs. But the design, because you go and see a cabaret, everyone sings their audition songs, or you hear songs that kind of person you're expected to hear them sing. So we twisted some songs. That's why we called it The Songs I'll Never Sing, through the story of Rachel John's discovery of music. Like, for example, there was a version we had Far From the Home I Love from Fiddler on the Roof, but Rachel is from Trinidad. Her family's from Trinidad, so I rearranged it and made it a calypso. We had the opening of the second half. We kind of mashed together all these Disney princess songs and the concept of it, and then it turned into Ooby-Doo I don't want to be like you, and made that a little bit of a torch song. And the whole concept was she'd never seen herself represented in a Disney film as a young girl.
That sounds brilliant. Needs to come back. Bring it back.
Oh, I'd love to bring it back. We had such fun doing that. But when we finished that, we were like, oh my God, this was so much fun doing it. It was hard work, but we loved it. And then we started writing our first musical, which we put on this year at the Other Palace as a workshop performance.
They're great. They're so good at supporting.
They're
Did they give you
brilliant.
the space for free and things like that, or?
No, we had they gave it to us on a great deal.
Yeah.
But they were just really great, really open and like really helpful to get us up and running. We've done quite a few other things there now.
They've been really great for us as well. I've got to say. I mean, you know, they get a lot of flack, and people are like, well, actually, you know, they should be making the whole show. And I want to go, hang on a sec. Actually, you're asking. I don't want to make a musical to be hard. You've got to earn that, and you've got to write to the right people, and you've got to get the support. But I think actually, Other Palace, everything I've done there, they've treated me well. So well
they're
done.
Very good. But yeah, we put down in July this year. We did a workshop of this musical. It's called Confessions. We did a workshop last year first, and then we did this workshop, which we opened to the public. We sold tickets, and we allowed the public to kind of, because we had a small investment, so we Oliver and I put this all together ourselves. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. And we had 3 amazing actresses come in and play the roles in Confessions. So Confessions, in a nutshell, is about 3 female spies who have their life. It's kind of a play on that trope, the spy films, James Bond, Mission Impossible, where the women are often disposable characters. Yeah. Their stories aren't really heard. So we wanted to twist that idea. And we've written this piece, and now we've just got, it's so exciting. We've got a really amazing director on board. We've always said that from the get-go, because it's a piece about women,
get a woman to do it.
We need a female director.
Yeah.
And we've just locked a very exciting one in.
Oh,
so that's going to be happening next year. We also wrote a song cycle which was performed this year in Australia in October, called Hashed Out, and the concept is about how we're not connecting anymore, how everybody's Instagramming and hashtagging, and people have a whole other identities on their Facebook pages and on their Instagram, and we aren't connecting. There's no simplicity. But we were commissioned by the Victorian College of the Arts, which is it's the new kind of main musical theatre college now in Australia. They're producing brilliant artists now. So they commissioned that work, and a director did an amazing job with it. He designed this box, this prism that the 4 actors were trapped in, and they had to move these boxes around. And
nice.
And the what linked, because it was it's a lot of our pop music. We've written quite a lot of kind of pop R&B style trap kind of music. It's designed to have a DJ, and we're trying to get this one up and running for Edinburgh Fringe next year with a DJ and 4 singers.
It's interesting, the work that you've done before as an actor in the places that you've been, which has been about, the importance of wanting to be seen and wanting to break the mold and what is new. It seems like that has influenced the writing that you are doing now.
It absolutely does.
Do you know what I mean? Like, how many, I don't imagine, this is not a dig at Rodgers and Hammerstein, but I don't know if Rodgers and Hammerstein to this day would be going, do you know what we really need? We need a DJ.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I love that your influences, so much of your influences and the things that you've experienced in your life are manifesting in your work.
Well, really, truly finding Oliver Lidert and Oliver's become one of my best friends. We're pretty much family. He lives around the corner. We have keys to each other's houses.
Amazing.
I was in his wedding party with him and his lovely wife. We're spending Christmas Day together. Oliver's also it's funny because he looks like my brother. Mm-hmm. He's mixed race. He calls himself Jamolish. His mother's Jamaican and his father's a Polish Jew. And,
amazing.
He's about to start rehearsals actually for Prince of Egypt. But when we met, we were just like kindred spirit, and we both have experienced the same sort of adversity as being a marginalized group. And we're from between the two of us as well. We kind of represent everybody.
Yeah.
White, black, Jewish, Christian,
Gay, straight, yeah.
all of it, gay, straight, all of that. So we've got a lot of things to say.
So what song do you want to play on the show?
So this song that I'm going to be playing is called "Imitating Life," and now "Imitating Life" is from our musical we've written called Autumn Rhythm, which will be in workshop in Australia in November next year. Autumn Rhythm is about Jackson Pollock, and
so it's very messy.
And the design of the show is that we have because Jackson Pollock at that time was a big jazz head, and jazz music in the 1940s, 50s, and early 60s, there was a movement of jazz called bebop, which is improvised jazz. It's and each instrument will kind of take over. So the idea of the show is marrying that music with Jackson Pollock's unconventional style of painting. This song, Imitating Life, is sung by a character named Theodore, who sort of represents Thelonious Monk, African-American jazz pianist.
Do I compare with what you know? Can I be abstract like Rothko? Viewed from afar like Picasso? Appreciate the paint I throw. Our stories are told by our hues. What is the language that we choose? Can you see yellows in my blues? What we are, we're splashed on canvas, thrown with intent, primed and stretched. We are people etched. What we are, shades on a spectrum, anything but random, line and form, cold melting into warm. Does this speak to you? Can you see yellows in my blues? Inside the brush strokes that I choose to use, imitating life. What we are, just an impression, splashes and dashes, and when it's through, hung for you. What are we? Are we? We are imitating life. Do I compare with what you know? Can I be abstract like Rothko? Viewed from afar like Picasso? Appreciate the paint I throw. Our stories are told by our use. What is the language that we choose? Can you see yellows in my blues? We are imitating life. Picasso. Appreciate the paint I throw. Our stories are told by our cues. What is the language that we choose? Can you see yellows in my blues? We are imitating life, imitating life, imitating life, imitating life, imitating life.
This is Liam Tamney, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates. I see you shiver with anticipation.
You were obviously involved in probably one of the biggest shows, that one of the most epic shows, that's the word, most epic shows that the West End has ever seen, that was very, very prominent in the 80s and came back, and that is Miss Saigon.
Yes. I was involved in the 25th anniversary cast at the Prince Edward Theatre. I did the 2-year stint there. But Miss Saigon was a fantastic job. I loved it. I loved the show.
How many were in that cast?
Oh, it was a big cast, actually. I think it was about... I was almost 40 people, actually, including swings and everything. It was a tough job. There were, a lot of the graduates, I felt, and a lot of this is me as well. A lot of the young GIs that came into the show were a little bit troublesome. There was a lot of, particularly the first cast was a little bit bitchy, and a little bit competitive. But it was. I wasn't. I loved it. I loved singing that material. I think, and working directly with Bubil and Schomburg. They were with us in almost in the recreation of it. Creatively, it was fantastic. But I think once the show got up and running, there were some issues, and I think a lot of people have, and I'm sure you have before in the industry, experienced personality clashes.
Yeah.
And there were some of those. What a cast as well. I mean, John Briones as the engineer was exceptional. Even Noblezada, phenomenal. I mean, for a 17-year-old to be able to tap into that sort of emotion was pretty incredible. Yeah.
I heard, I believe it was, I'm pretty sure this is true actually, because the person who told me works directly with him, that Cameron might have... I think it was the Royal Variety, might have had a glass of vino or two and introduced Evita Noblezada as Evil Noble Zebra.
I've not heard that story.
Yeah, I believe that is the case. Ladies and gentlemen, Evil Noble Zebra. So...
I mean, one of my favorite Cameron stories, actually, like where I was doing tech rehearsals and I was sitting... Because I played... my track was... I played Schultz, who... And in the opening, in the Dreamland scene, I was like the druggy guy who had to start a fight with Chris. I remember I was sitting there watching Tech, and Tech takes forever, and I just heard this voice behind me, and he tapped me on my shoulder. It was Cameron. He's like, "Oh, you're great. You're very butch, dear."
Thank you, Cameron.
Thanks, Cameron.
I think the same of you. I mean, the other thing... Can I ask another thing? I've always wondered this. I was told that the helicopter... Of course, I'm talking about the fucking helicopter. But I was always told that the helicopter blades are actually 2 tennis balls on a bit of rope, which is how it gives that look.
They were on the original version. We had we had this amazing new helicopter that was like this automated thing that... And I understudied John, so I got to ride in it, which was really fun.
Yeah.
And that had kind of had like a semi-propeller on it.
Right.
With lights that kind of looked like it was, yeah.
How do you maintain any kind of sense of company, though, with that many people? I mean, that's such a huge cast, plus the orchestra, plus all the production, plus everyone from the office. You're talking about a company of 300, 400 people on a payroll, I guess. Yeah, in total.
I mean, a show like that becomes a bit of a machine, and it's just, I think, eventually everybody kind of ends up finding their own cliques, and I've never been a clique person. I've always kind of stuck to myself, or been. I might have one or two. I always find maybe one or two in a company who I end up becoming lifelong friends.
Yeah.
And then there's others who I probably will never see again, and probably never desire to see again. There's a handful of them. For me, as long as I stay authentic to who I am, that's what matters. Actually, one of my favorite jobs that I did, which is on my CV there.
On his 3-page CV, everyone.
Yes.
Obviously, like all of my guests, I cannot cover everything and listen, it's pages and pages and pages. The Argos catalogue has got less pages in it.
Well, I was approached to do and this was just after exposure. I was approached to do a South African play called Wirework. Which was the first time it's ever been performed in the UK, and the first time it's ever been performed translated from Afrikaans into English.
Right.
It was two-hander, and I played a character named Koos Malchus, who is a coloured man, and it was the first time I got to play actually my race, my true race, without being
a hyena.
Or without being because I've always had, and we had this conversation. I've always had that conversation of, I've had that idea thrown at me where, you're not black enough, or you're not. What are you? You're mixed, which I find really insulting and a little bit racist from both sides.
Yeah,
that was a really lovely job because I got to speak in an accent. I got to I remember calling up my mum and my grandma and asking them about some Afrikaans lingo that Cape Coloured people would have spoken.
Yeah.
And it was a really lovely place.
Because you speak quite a few languages as well. That was the other nice thing I saw on your CV that I didn't realise.
So, I
mean, enough to get by.
Enough to get by. Yes.
I'm not suggesting that you start translating, the works of Oedipus into these languages, but so I've got here that you speak or you're able to get by with Spanish, Italian, and Afrikaans and English. Well, English is debatable, but the other three, that's really impressive. Are languages something that excite you?
Yeah, I think. Well, I think languages, in the same way that music does. I've always been obsessed with and a bit geeky about sheet music. I love looking at dots.
Yeah.
And I think we use the same part of our brains when we're translating languages as we are using reading sheet music.
There's one show I really, really, really want to ask you about because it did extremely well. But also, I don't know if all my listeners will know about it. Now, you did Sweet Bird of Youth. You did that both at Chichester.
Yes.
And then it transferred, I'm right in thinking?
No, I did two very different productions. I did the first
Really?
time. Yeah, the first time I did it at the Old Vic.
Yeah.
And that was directed by Marion Elliott.
Oh, wow.
And we had Kim Cattrall playing the princess.
What is the story for those who don't know?
So the Sweet Bird of Youth is about this young man who is from this town called St. Cloud, and he has done something. He's coming home. It's a bit of a prodigal son. He's come home to his town. And he's done something bad.
Yeah.
And they don't want him back in this town. But he's come back to this town with a famous movie star. And they're staying, and it's all about them in this hotel room. The majority of the play is in their hotel room.
Yeah.
And there's various other characters that step in and out, and then it's revealed. It's a famous Tennessee Williams play, which is quite, in a lot of his plays, as we know, are quite dark and twisted.
And often lots of homosexual undercurrents running throughout as well.
And so Kim Cattrall played the character of the famous, who's a kind of a washed-up movie star. I played the role of Jackie, who's he needs, and I needed to. It was my piano skills that really got me the job as well. Who needs to play the piano in this one scene in the play in Act 2. And a few years later, they did the production at Chichester.
Yeah.
directed by Jonathan Kent, and had Marsha Gay Harden play the same part. So yeah, it was fantastic.
What's it like though? I mean, I know as a director what it's like to direct the same play but with different actors. But what's it like to be an actor in the same play but with different directors?
Oh, fantastic! Because you just see different perspectives.
So you're quite open to the character being. Do you start afresh with a character, or do you find yourself going, oh well, what I did before, which is such a disabling thing to bring to any process?
No, I let go of that version completely. I think, and not only from the director's perspective. I mean, even this last version of Ragtime that I did, I've had 3 different directors for Ragtime. I had Robert
McQuire
for our version, and then I had Timothy Sheeder for Regent's Park, and Roger Hodgman for this last version. And each version, I've gone in, and because I understudied Coalhouse in the Regent's Park version, so I didn't play Coalhouse there. I dropped everything that I did, and I was like, "Who am I today?
Yeah.
What can I bring to this today? And what what can I get from this director and these other actors that is going to make this version this version?"
I think that's a really healthy approach, and one that just brings so much more to you as a performer. However, I can imagine a lot of people, as actors, there is that desire, isn't it, to go to what is safe and what I know, and actually to put yourself out there. Of course, that's the better route. But I do wonder for some actors when they're in that situation, how hard that must be to still maintain that open-mindedness. Yeah,
and I think we need to let go, because if you don't, then I think our egos can drive things too much.
What's the show that I haven't mentioned that you want to talk about?
I moved to London 16 years ago and hadn't been home to perform, and actually went back to do a little run of Jesus Christ Superstar, and while I was there, I auditioned for Evita, and they in the starring role was Tina Arena.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh God, I'd love to do that. I'd do anything in that, because I love Tina Arena. I was a big fan. I used to watch Young Talent Time, which was this TV show in Australia. I was obsessed with it, which it was so good. And
inspired casting for Eva Peron. I mean, absolutely inspired.
So perfect. And I just thought, I'd be happy to be, Argentine 4 in the corner. And anyway, so I auditioned for, and I was seen for the role of Shay, and ended up getting it. And it was the biggest dream come true, because I got to perform at the Sydney Opera House.
No, really?
Yeah, that's where we opened. We opened the show there, and then we moved to Melbourne, which is my hometown, which is where all my family live.
So Sydney Opera House would have been, for you growing up in Australia, would have been such an iconic, I can only attribute it to somewhere like Drury Lane for me. I suppose not, because Sydney Opera House is Australia's landmark, isn't it? Yep. I mean, you think of Australia, you think of kangaroos, you think of crocodiles, and you think of Sydney Opera House. If you're from this dreadful
it is
country.
Iconic. It's a weird space though. It's not a backstage. I mean, the green room area and the communal area is beautiful, but actually backstage is really difficult. It's a really difficult space to work in. Yeah, because of the design of the building, obviously the sails. But yeah, it was an absolute dream to do that. It was so good. It was one of the hardest roles I've ever played. And I mean, I listened earlier to Johnny Barr's interview with Barr. You, and Johnny was amazing. Johnny kept texting me while I was there during rehearsals, giving me advice. He's such a dream. And it was fantastic. And to this day, since then, as I finished February this year in Evita, and Tina Arena's become a very good friend of mine. She's the two of us, we needed some time out after that, because that show, it's a short show, it's not a long piece.
It's visceral though.
But yeah, for those 2 roles particularly, it's really tough.
Do you know what I think? I think I've discussed Evita before with other people who've done the show and in various different productions. But I still find it... the scene that everyone knows is Don't Cry for Me, Argentina, and that is obviously wonderful. But for me, it's all about a new Argentina. Like,
Oh, yeah,
I defy anybody to walk through London listening to a new Argentina and not find their pace being affected. Like, you know, Andrew Lloyd Webber does get he gets a bad rap for some things, and some quite rightly.
Yeah. But then sometimes
I love that score.
Yeah, it's amazing. There were days when I'd be so exhausted, but I would just use how I was feeling on that day to tell that story. And the difference between this version of Che, because Hal Prince's, we did Hal Prince's version, the original, is the design it's Che Guevara.
Yeah.
Who he's not just a narrator, but there's a commentary to it. There's a political kind of commentary, and I don't think the other versions that have come out. I didn't see the Regent's Park one, so I can't make any statement about that. But I don't think the other versions kind of really tapped into that, and I found it quite empowering because he's a revolutionary.
Yeah.
He had strong opinions about what she stood for and what capitalism was doing. Yeah, and he was on the other end of the other end of the scale. He was full communist, full socialist. So it was brilliant. I mean, I guess there's a little bit of me in that character as well, which I kind of really took on board, I think.
But I love the fact that you clearly would have had to have done so much research to get under those fingernails.
I read Motorcycle Diaries a few times. I watched as many documentaries about him as I could find. I even watched the movie with Benicio del Toro.
Yeah.
And I tried to find as much as I could about his history, where he would have been at the time. Because they never met each other, but where he would have been, but he was an Argentine, but where he would have been at the time, I kind of really dove in deep, really, in the preparation for it, in the preparation for the rehearsals. I mean, what was lovely, I haven't told you this yet, actually, was after we opened, I got some really lovely reviews, which I try not to read them. Yeah. While the run is on, I'll read them afterwards because I'm always curious. But I looked in my emails and in my inbox it said Hal Prince.
Oh wow!
And you know this
May rest in peace. Yeah.
Yeah. And he sent me an email saying how proud he was of me and how he's been reading all my amazing reviews. So that's printed. That's with his signature on there as well. So I've printed that.
It's beautiful.
And it's hanging in my office.
He is probably the greatest. No, I'm going to say I think Hal Prince is the greatest musical theatre director of our time, and his understanding of imagery on stage.
Yep.
There's never a single... His philosophy or his ethos, certainly with his large commercial work, was there should never be a time where if you take a snapshot picture of the stage that you don't know what's seen because they all must be different.
Yeah.
And I've used that my entire career, and he was amazing.
And he wasn't scared to bend the rules.
No.
I find that for me as a composer and as a writer, I take that inspiration wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Because I think there's rules, there's parameters that we can play within, but then shake it up a little bit, mix it up.
Hello, this is Rufus Hound, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates. But the real question is, what are you doing while you're listening? Stop touching that, you filthy bastard.
Kurt Kansley, I am going to exile you on tour in Whitley Bay. I need to know what you need to survive in your digs. Now, you will get a copy of any religious text and the complete works of William Shakespeare. I'm going to ask you what album, film, TV box set, game, book, play, musical, and luxury item you need to survive. What would be the album you would need to survive?
Does it have to be musical theatre?
No, it doesn't, because you get a musical and a play that you...
Oh, okay. The album would be... I know this is going to sound cliche. Oh, I'm torn. It would either be Stevie Wonder, Songs in the Key of Life.
Nice.
Or Donny Hathaway.
Who's Donny Hathaway? That's somebody I don't know.
Donny Hathaway has the most amazing story. He was a soul singer.
Right.
that killed himself in 1979. He had paranoid schizophrenia.
Wow.
He is you will know his voice.
Yeah.
He sang a song called A Song for You. I've been so many places in my life and time.
Yeah.
And he used to sing duets with Roberta Flack.
Wow.
And he had it's such a good story, but his voice was like chocolate, and his storytelling through his music, and he's an amazing pianist. One of my idols.
Well, there's your next musical sorted.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
It's already being written right now.
I will check him out. This is why I love this little section. People are like, because somebody asked me before, they were like, why do you do the Desert Island Discs bit? And I go, because I discover so many artists and so much work that if you're saying that's the one thing you need, I will definitely check him out.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Start with my Spotify playlist.
Yes.
And what would be the film?
The film?
Is it Antonio Banderas and Evita?
No.
No, it's not.
I think I'm going to have to say The Colour Purple.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's come up before, but why the hell not?
It's one of those movies that one of my best girlfriend and I, we do this. We still live together. If I feel like I want to have a cry, I put on Colour Purple, and I don't even watch the whole thing. I just fast forward it to the bits that make me cry. Yeah. I think it's one of Spielberg's best films.
Yeah, I'd agree. And Whoopi Goldberg does give an Oscar-winning performance in the truest sense.
And Oprah Winfrey is sublime in it. Yeah, as is Danny Glover.
What would be your TV box set?
My TV box set. Do you know what? Smash. Season 1.
Smash was great.
It was good.
It was really, really fabulous. I have a friend who directed a lot of the episodes.
Yeah.
And even he said the production levels were enormous on it. I
was just excited. I mean,
that cast was amazing.
It was a bit far-fetched, but I thought brilliant that the story of the struggling artist is being told. And yes, it was heightened and far-fetched, and a lot of that stuff would never happen. But that's why it's
why it's a TV show.
Yeah. But I loved it I loved the way that they, particularly in the first season, the way they would segue into songs and the choice of songs and the brilliant talents. I love Megan Hilty.
What would be the game that you would need? Now, that can be a board game, that can be a game for your PlayStation, that could be anything you want, any kind of game.
What game? Not Monopoly.
Not Monopoly.
Well, I like an old-fashioned board game that makes you think, like a game like Articulate.
Yeah, I love Articulate.
Where you have to kind of think of words, and I'm a bit like that. So I think Articulate.
I recently got taken on a date to a place called Drafts. I don't know if you've heard of Drafts.
No.
It's in Waterloo, and it's a board game cafe that sells wine. I've had some of the best. I had one of the best times of my life. We just drank, played board games, was totally out of Soho. Do you know what I mean? I've got a feeling as the generations are moving on, I think more people are going to start craving for that kind of fun
because it's connection. People are looking to connect.
I played a game called Obama Llama.
Ooh,
all right, check it out. So you have to say things like. I won't go into all the rules, but basically you have to act out a phrase that rhymes. So it would be Meryl Streep shaving some sheep, but you can only do that through actions, for example.
I love that.
It's an old parlour game. It's so much fun.
Those sorts of games, because when I was at college, when I was at acting school, I was right into theatre sports and improvisation and
whose line is it anyway?
Yeah, I love all that stuff, and I think those sorts of games kind of bring out that.
What would be the book?
The Artist's Way.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Because if you're going to be stuck in Whitley B, you're going to have some dark days.
Yes.
The Artist's Way. You can have The Artist's Way. What would be the play?
The play? Oh, do you know which play I really like, actually? Is The Kiss of the Spider Woman.
And what would be the musical? Also, Kiss of the Spider Woman. That should have been what it would. Film. Yeah. You should have done film, book, play, musical, Kiss of the Spider Woman, all of them. Although it is a story about incarceration of a gay man, so I can understand how that would resonate with you being stranded on tour in Whitley Bay.
Well, I've got my favorite musicals. I always have they always change.
Yeah.
Yeah, they always. I've always got like a top 5-ish, depending on what I'm doing at the time. This year it's been Ragtime. I've been listening to that over and over again.
Yeah.
But I think right now probably Hamilton.
Yeah, it is. It's
I love it.
It's a phenomenal piece.
I think it's so good. I think it's groundbreaking. I think musical theatre that is groundbreaking. They're always the big successes, aren't they?
Yeah, and again from delving into your past, that they've been the shows that have excited you most of all. Even down to Showboat, arguably.
Yes.
I'm not saying you're from the original production Showboat, of course, but actually it is those game changers that seem to excite you.
Yeah.
So any producers or writers out there, if you're doing a groundbreaking musical, contact Grantham and Hazeldean and ask if Kurt Kansley can come in. What would be the and what would be the luxury item?
I used it. It would probably be my skin creams that I like to use.
Skin creams over a piano.
Oh, yes, a piano. I wouldn't call that a luxury item though.
That's a necessity.
I call that a necessity.
I knew you'd say that.
Yeah.
Skin cream. What? Any particular brand?
Well, I use this brand. It's very expensive actually, but I've got very dear friends who have a salon who sell it. It's called the brand is called Intelligent Nutrients.
Right.
And it's food graded. It's really good.
So that's why you've always got a glow about you. It's these skin products.
I use really good skin products.
I'm now getting to an age where I'm using Clinique, and somebody pointed out to me, Andrew, if you put that stuff on a car, it'll take the paint off. And I went, well, do you know what? That's exactly what I need.
Yeah.
God, isn't it funny? I'm using eye cream now. I never in my life did I think I'd be using eye cream.
Oh, no, I started years ago. I love it. I have a whole ritual.
I'm Alistair Brammer, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keates, a man with the hairdo of a children's TV presenter and the drinks cabinet of an elderly Broadway diva.
It's time for everyone's favourite part of the show. Funny 5 minutes. Kurt Kansley, you must answer all of the questions I'm about to ask you as quickly as possible. Within 5 minutes, you are only allowed 3 passes. But remember to use them wisely, as during this time, I'm going to ask you some of the most obscure, random, and frankly outrageous questions you may ever have been asked before. Kurt Kansley, let's play Funny 5 minutes.
I'm ready.
Kurt, if your home was on fire and you could only save one object, what would it be?
My piano.
Piano, safe. If you could own any famous piece of art, which would you own?
Autumn Rhythm by Jackson Pollock.
Very, very good. This is a new question. I'll see if there's a pass. If you had to fuck or be fucked by any cartoon animal, what would it be?
A cartoon animal?
Yeah, as in like Disney.
Ooh.
Because they say that everyone has a crush on Mufasa. I would probably go with Scar. Have you ever seen a UFO?
Yes.
Have you really?
No.
What is your favourite dinosaur? What is your favourite takeaway?
Oh, Thai.
What would you order?
A Muscle Man.
But
I always think Muscle Man when I say Muscle Man.
I'll have a Muscle Man curry, please, dear. Let's do... Who is your favourite person on Twitter?
Oh, I don't do Twitter.
Do you not do Twitter?
You.
Obviously. How do you take your tea?
I take my tea white, strong, no sugar.
Like your man. What is the most expensive thing you've ever bought other than, say, a house, flat, or car?
Probably a tuxedo.
Tuxedo? What, as in a proper, expensive branded one?
Yeah.
What is your most annoying habit?
Biting my nails.
Really? Are you a nail biter?
Yeah, but I try and do it in secret.
You can get special stuff that you can paint your nails with that makes it taste revolting.
Then it'll taste revolting.
Would you rather fight 1 horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
100 duck-sized horses.
And the reason for this, Kurt Kansley? It's a lot of ducks.
I was thinking.
A lot of horses, sorry.
I think because I'm a fighter.
Just really get off on just a day of killing tiny baby horses. do you have a favourite Disney film? If so, what is it?
My favourite Disney film would probably be... I love them. I love them all. Oh,
well, you can't
Hercules.
have them all.
Hercules.
How many pairs of shoes do you own?
I would say I own about 20.
20 pairs of shoes?
Yes.
That's a lot of shoes.
Yeah, I don't
think
need
you've got
that
more
many.
I think you've got more shoes than Anna Jane Casey, and that's saying something. Do you believe in ghosts?
Yes.
Sondheim or Andrew Lloyd Webber?
Sondheim.
Sondheim, obviously. What is the strangest thing you've ever had in your mouth? I said strangest.
Strangest. My fingernails.
Your fingernails. How do you like your eggs in the morning?
Scrambled.
Scrambled. If you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Bangers and mash.
Bangers and mash. Any particular kind of sausage?
Either Cumberland or Italian sausage, like Toulouse.
Have you ever been arrested?
No.
You've never been arrested. If you had to jump into a swimming pool filled with something, what would it be?
Oh, chocolate.
Sausage. No, sorry. That sounds revolting. Chocolate.
Chocolate.
I'm not solid chocolate. That's
No,
really
actually,
painful.
actually coffee.
Coffee.
Yeah, like a really delicious latte.
Who was your teenage crush?
I pretended it was Samantha Fox.
Yeah.
But really, in reality, it was Michael J. Fox.
Michael J. Fox. Oh my God! In Back to the Future, when he's wearing those pants, I remember that.
Yeah.
Gosh, giving away dark secrets. If you were a superhero, what would be your superpower?
I would have all the superpowers.
All of the no,
I'm
you
greedy
can't
like that.
You can't have that.
Oh,
Because,
okay.
No, because that's like when you're given the 3 wishes, and then you say, "I want more wishes."
Okay, if I pick one, I'd be able to travel back and forward in time.
That's useful, and then you could very, very good.
Yeah, then I could see all the musicals.
See all of the musicals in the world. Oh, well, sadly, that noise tells me that is the end of the show. But thank you to Kurt and obviously Oliver Lidert for allowing us to play one of their songs on the show. But, ladies and gentlemen, please go mad for the one, the only, Mr. Kurt Kansley. Hooray! And the crowd went wild. So, Kurt, how can people keep up to date with all that you are up to?
Well, you can follow me on my Instagram page,
Yes.
which is at Kurt Kansley. And you can also follow what Kansley and Lidert are doing. There's a link to it, but there's a Kansley and Lidert Instagram.
Okay.
I'm also on Facebook. We've also got Kansley and Lidert on Twitter.
You're doing all the branding, aren't you?
Yeah, we do it all. I'm not that great at social media, to be honest, but I try. I do my best.
And is there a place that people can listen to your music as well?
Yes, you can listen to a lot of our songs on our YouTube channel. We have got a Kansley and Lidert YouTube channel. We also have a brilliant Christmas song sung by Cedric Neal called Is That Okay?, which is available on iTunes and on Spotify. And all of the proceeds of that go to the wonderful charity Theatre Mad Make a Difference Trust.
Everyone, what I'll do is I'll put links to all of those things in the show notes, so please make sure you check it out. And all I can say, mate, is thank you so much. This has been lovely.
Such a pleasure. You're wonderful, Andrew Keates.
Don't, it'll make me cry. Don't forget, you can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Keates. You can follow the show at Show People UK, at Show People Podcast on Instagram, or Mr. Andrew Keates on Instagram. You can send me an email to info@arian-productions.com, or like the Show People Podcast Facebook page at facebook.com/Show People Podcast, where you can join the listeners forum and talk with other listeners to the show. This podcast is produced by Arian Productions Limited, dedicated to giving opportunities to theatre makers. Now it's Christmas. It's the time for giving. We do our very best to bring you an episode every 2 weeks. Please, please, please pop a little gift in our stockings by visiting www.arian-productions.com/donate. Help us pay the electricity bill to keep the servers running and all the equipment that we need. So please support the show. Until next time, show people, just be better. I keep wanting to say leader because I'm thinking of Leader and Starla.
Yeah.
Kansley
and Lidert, we're called.
Kansley and Lidert. I think it should be Kansley, just lead it. Because it makes it sound like, Kansley, just lead it. She's not worth it.
He will love that. I'm going to tell him that. We're talking about tonight.
Kansley, just lead it. She's not worth it. It's only a vodka and Coke. I'm going to start that again.
In that piece.
1 second. I'm just going to pause you. Talk about personality clashes. Toby Page. Am I going to have to put you in your dressing room?
We've got a special guest.
Toby. It's because he's an enormous Miss Saigon fan. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's Miss Saigon, not my Saigon. But remember to use them wisely, as during this time, I'm going to ask you some of the most obscure, random, and frankly outrageous questions you may ever have been asked before. Kurt Kansley, let's play Funny 5 Minutes.
I'm ready.
Oh, that's the wrong fucking button. Sorry.